Good evening, I'm Philip Rodriguez. These are the events that have taken place leading up to tonight's unfortunate outcome. It is unfortunate not only for me and my family, but for the citizens of Brighton, Colorado, as the very people who were responsible to do the right thing failed them. Late last summer, I found nearly $70 million in the utility fund when I was creating my first budget at the city of Brighton. It was out of place, far too large, and without good reason to exist. Some council members even refused to meet with me to discuss the financial irregularities. The mayor and 4 other members of the city council have been very dismissive of legal issues or ethic violations in the past that get brought to their attention, just claiming the issues as Brightonized. Since I first shined light on the utility fund issue, those same 5 members who voted for my ouster tonight have retaliated against me. Tonight was their final blow. Within days of first bringing it to the mayor and city council's attention, I was fighting for my job and my career. On October 2nd, 2018, I was called into an illegal closed executive session of the city council where they sought to terminate me. The mayor and the 4 city council members have been unhappy that I found the money, and ever since they've been trying to find reasons to fire me. The discovery of the utility fund corruption in Brighton has officially turned into a council cover-up tonight. What is the corruption? It's simple. The city has far too much of our residents' cash and no good reason to have it. Our rates have been unnecessarily raised time and time again based on falsehoods and illegal budgeting practices. When I complained and when the public complained, it fell on deaf ears with the majority of the elected officials who are charged with the duty to preserve and protect the public's funds. Then when I, as a city manager, persisted with the council calling for a forensic audit, and as an individual citizen notifying state and federal law enforcement, the council chose to fire me for blowing the whistle, and yet I was told tonight, and it was on record, that there was no cause for my termination. But it does get worse. We know exactly where the money came from. It came directly from the pockets of the hardworking people who are the utility ratepayers of Brighton. It's their money. And they never consented to being grossly overcharged or to have it stored at City Hall like an interest-free loan to the government. The mayor has said many times that having too much cash is a good thing for the city, but this is simply false. The unexplained and unjustified utility fund is like a tumor in the body. It is growing, but it's not a good thing for any of us. It should not be there, and it certainly should not be ignored or hidden. I tried to notify the city council and ask them to support me in getting to the bottom of all of this, but I knew earlier this spring, after failed attempts to get their support, that I had to notify the U.S. Department of Justice and the Colorado Attorney General's office as a private citizen. That whistleblowing has been the thing that made the mayor and 4 city council members the angriest. Not the fund, not the corruption, but that I chose to tell outside law enforcement about it and ask for outside help. That's ultimately what cost me my job tonight. While I am a victim of blowing the whistle on this corruption, the real victims are the people of Brighton. Uncovering the mysteries in utilities has been my #1 goal. And while I've been getting closer to the truth, the council urgently directed their efforts to thwart me from uncovering those mysteries. Here are 3 of the serious problems I've uncovered and told the mayor and city council about again and again and again. First, there have been multi-million-dollar contracts that never saw a public bid. Second, there are fake projects that the city has been charging us all for that never even got built. Third, there is even fictitious debt that was used as a reason to raise rates year over year on those fake projects that still do not exist. We all need more sunlight on this issue for real change to happen, and that sunlight must now be focused right here in Brighton. Now I'm left to try and pick up the shattered pieces of my career for me and my family after being removed for doing the right thing. But again, on record, they've said there is no cause for my termination. And then to add to the nightmare, at the last minute, some council members have gone to media and started a desperate character assassination of me. I believe the people of Brighton are smarter than that, though, and that there's 70 million reasons why this assault will not work. These 5 individuals have done everything in their power to destroy my life's work, but I'm determined to figure out how to land on my feet again. I have a family to provide for, and that will now be my main focus. I believe wholeheartedly that God will protect and provide for my family and me, and that His purposes are far bigger than this experience has been in Brighton. He's never failed me before, and I know he won't start now. I'm trusting in him and know that he will bring justice in due time. I wish the people of Brighton nothing but the best. It has been a distinct honor to serve here, and I remain hopeful in the future of this great community. Thank you.
Will you be pursuing legal action against the city, considering, I believe your legal standpoint is it's a violation of your contract to terminate you for a couple of different reasons?
So those are difficult questions that, quite frankly, my head's spinning today, this evening, and I obviously want to spend time with my loved ones. There's another day for me to talk about those things with my legal counsel, and then I'm sure he's going to give me good options, and then we'll certainly see from there. And it's something we want to be thoughtful about and prayerful about, but I don't know that I can answer that this evening.
When will you start taking those next steps?
Boy, that's a great question. It feels a lot like, where do we go from here? I think I've been so focused on this moment for the last week or so when I got the notice that the difficult things for me to kind of wrestle with beyond that, I just haven't gotten there yet. So I don't know, but I would imagine it's soon. I just really want the time to be with my loved ones and the people I lean on the most, and really think through, what those options mean in the long run.
Did you come in tonight preparing to get fired, or did you think there could have been a possible outcome the other way?
I was hopeful that they would do the right thing. And I mean that sincerely. Obviously, you hope that there's not already a predetermined outcome when a city council or any governing body or legislative body gets together. But the reality is, I think if anybody was betting on the 5-4 split tonight, they would have won those odds, right?
Do you feel like your firing was a result of you being a scapegoat to discovering the $70 million, or do you feel like the city council is trying to cover up this $70 million?
Well, I called it out tonight. I actually think it's a cover-up because the money is not the bigger question. It's how did we get the money? What was the excessive rate-making processes that were made? And then in particular, I think the biggest question for everybody is why? Why would a city work so feverishly to store up money like that, when at the end of the day, we could have served incredibly well and we could have provided clean drinking water without that other $70 million needing to sit there?
A lot of people were concerned, they're talking about the forensic audit that's coming up, and to my understanding, whoever replaces you is going to be in charge of that process, hiring that firm.
Okay.
Are you personally worried about the transparency of that process now that City Council has elected to fire you and they'll replace somebody favorably?
I can't speak to that process because I genuinely have no idea what they're going to do next. We were on a path for the process to work. I was quite frankly, I was thrilled that we got to a spot where the council voted for the forensic audit. I was gearing up actually with my finance director the day that I was notified 1 week ago today that I might lose my job. We were gearing up for the next steps, and I wanted to make sure that was a public bid process, and certainly that, quite honestly, that's something that really needs to be managed by third party. It's just too important at this point.
Taxpayers were warned that it was going to be expensive to fire you because of what they'd have to pay you in severance and then possible litigation. They announced a figure tonight, and I don't recall it, of what that severance was looking like. Can you say what that is, and is that kind of what you were expecting?
They gave the number tonight, but it equates to about 9 months of my annual salary. So, and I can tell you, I would much rather have my job tonight than to be talking about receiving that severance. So, it's more important to me now, again, like I said, to just kind of spend time with those that I love and figure out what's next.
There have been a few city council members who have said that there is no extra $70 million. This
Okay.
has all been blown out of proportion. It's a hoax. This is just, money that hasn't been used on projects. How would you characterize, those statements?
Well, it goes back to a thing I said a moment ago that, I've heard similar things, that it's actually a really great thing that we have all this money. The reality is, though, that we're not a profit-making enterprise. We are supposed to provide service, a life-saving service, a life-giving service. Water and wastewater are not really optional for the people that live in Brighton. And so for us to overcharge, which is really what's taken place time and time and time again, and willfully know that, to me is very problematic. And that's really why, when I said a moment ago that I went to the Attorney General's office and the Department of Justice about this, is that I knew I was dealing with something much larger than just the $70 million in cash sitting there. And as my attorney said this evening, that's on top of all the other cash that we have. And so, we're talking about several $100 million that this city is responsible for. And we didn't really need to have that kind of a bank account in order to provide those services.
What is your advice to the next city manager?
I don't think I have any advice for the next city manager. I think it's a wonderful profession. Obviously, it's difficult because we're political appointees, and certainly I felt that tonight. But I just wish whoever's next the very best here in Brighton.
Do you think they'll do or face maybe a similar situation that you did?
I can't guess on that. Yeah, and I do know the council will change a fair amount in the next few months, which I think is important for residents and the community to be keenly aware of, and just make sure that they have the people that they think will represent their interests the best.
Why did you take this job in Brighton in the first place?
So the reason I took the job in Brighton, quite frankly, is everything about Brighton was attractive to me and my family. We knew this was a place that we could come and be part of a community that fit us culturally and our values. And I'm from here originally, Colorado, not Brighton itself, but from Adams County. And this was a homecoming for me and all of my family. And so obviously this outcome has created some tension with that, no doubt, but we were absolutely honored to have the chance to come in and serve here.
The mayor says that this is a personnel issue, the reason for your firing. Other members of city council questioned your ethics in their decision for their vote. How do you feel about them kind of, blanketing it as personnel, questioning your ethics?
Sure. Well, I'm hearing the same things as you, because those are things that have never been brought to me either. And so it's sort of strange to kind of box the wind, not know exactly where those attacks come from, because I don't know any of the context related to any of those conversations, and that's unfortunate. And I think my contract calls out for the ability to have a true evaluation process where they can let me know if there's identified issues. The last time I was in an evaluation process with this council, they thought I was doing a phenomenal job and even offered to give me a performance-based raise and more benefits. That's the last evaluation I've received from this council, so I can't speak to what sort of pretext issues they've come up with in the meantime.
So when did that evaluation happen?
The evaluation took place in August and September of last year.
Gotcha. So you're probably were due for your next evaluation.
That's correct.
Within the next couple months.
Absolutely.
So in the course of less of a year, so much has changed, apparently.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, I think everybody now is left to guess what that involved, because I've not been provided any of those reasons. I certainly would have liked to have been provided those reasons, but I don't have those. And now they took the one thing that they had some control over, which was my position here.
Do you have any words for the mayor and the councilors who voted you out?
I really don't.
What about the supporters who wanted you to stay in the packed room of people you had?
Let me say this just generally, and not to them specifically, but I got to tell you, I've been pretty inspired the last few weeks in watching the amount of civil, interaction and just people coming back out and engaging with their local government. I've not seen that in the whole time that I've been here in Brighton until just a few weeks ago, and it's unfortunate that that's kind of it's taking this to do that. But I tell you, I hope that momentum stays and the community gets incredibly involved in the decisions that impact them on a daily basis. So I'm encouraged by that. In fact, that's really all I want to say is I'm just encouraged, and I've personally been, I think, just positively impacted by what I've seen in that way.
I want to circle back to that October 2nd executive session, the one that was voted 5-4 to go into. There was a disagreement about state law and whatever the Brighton City Code is or the charter. Did you advise, council during that executive session that could have been potentially an illegal executive session and should have been a public record session?
I did not. I did ask the city attorney on our way into the executive session, because my understanding of our city charter is it's actually exactly the same as state law. So even this question of preemption is confusing to me, because they're the exact same, 2/3 majority required. So I did ask the question and really was told that I needed to either come back and participate or just wait out and let them talk about me behind closed doors.
After the forensic audit is over, do you feel that there are going to be any issues found that the Department of Justice has to look into or deal with?
Well, let me put it this way. When it was discussed that a forensic audit would be considered, the reality is multiple people on the dais talked about that you really only do that if you have some criminal suspicion, right? And so I would not have recommended a forensic audit for this city if I did not have at least some sense that there could be some malfeasance in the fund.
What malfeasance?
Well, some of those things I want to work through with law enforcement at this time, yeah.
So will you cooperate with law enforcement if they ask you to provide any information?
Yeah, to the extent, obviously, that I can add value, certainly. But, I also don't think I'm necessarily the linchpin in this either. I do think I'm the whistleblower that brought it forward, but my hope is that this doesn't end tonight and that the City Council makes good on its promise to get to the bottom of the answers on this issue.